I asked the top 5 AI to rank the best 20 British players of all time. For people who don't know, British consists of players from England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. Not this island. People have been debating this ranking for years, so we'll see if AI can help us settle the debate. Here's how it's going to work. Each AI is going to pick their top 20 British players, and the highest a player is ranked, the more points he gets. In the 20th place, it's 1 point, 19th is 2, 18 is 3, all the way to first, which is 20 points. In the end, we'll add the points and use that to determine the final list. Let's get started then. We begin with the 20th place. Here we had 5 different answers. ChatGPT picked Chris Waddle. A winger whose statistics only tell part of the story. Waddle's real strength was flair, creativity, and the ability to beat defenders with ease. He shone at Newcastle, Tottenham, and Marseille, winning hearts with his dribbling and technique. For England, he earned 62 caps and scored 6 goals. Slightly underrated, but still regarded as one of the most naturally gifted English players. Grok chose Ian Rush, the Welsh striker who became a Liverpool legend. Rush remains the club's all-time top scorer with 346 goals. He spearheaded them to 5 league titles, 5 League Cups, and 2 European Cups, cementing himself as one of Britain's greatest forwards. Gemini went for Peter Shilton, England's most capped men's player with 125 international appearances. Shilton was a model of consistency and reliability, representing England at 5 different World Cups and delivering decades of top-level performances for both club and country. DeepSeek selected Graham Souness, a commanding Scottish midfielder and leader. As Liverpool captain, he won 3 European Cups and 5 First Division titles in the 1980s, dominating midfields with his blend of physicality, technical ability, and leadership. He later continued his success in Italy with Sampdoria. Lichat opted for John Barnes, the electrifying Liverpool winger. Barnes won 2 league titles and 2 FA Cups, and twice earned the Footballer of the Year award. Known for his flair, dribbling, and creativity, he remains one of the finest wingers England has ever produced. So after round 1, 5 different players sit tied on 1 point each. Now on the 19th place. ChatGPT chose Alan Shearer, the Premier League's all-time top scorer with 260 goals. Shearer was the definition of a complete striker, ruthless in front of goal, dominant in the air, and blessed with one of the hardest shots the game has seen. He led Blackburn Rovers to the Premier League title in 1995 and won the Golden Boot 3 times. For England, he scored 30 goals in 63 appearances. Graham Souness makes his second appearance as Grok selects him as the 19th best British player, moving him up the standings with another vote. Gemini went with Billy Wright, the elegant Wolverhampton Wanderers defender. Wright was the first player in world football to reach 100 international caps and captained England for much of his career. He was a pioneer of leadership and consistency, making him one of the most respected defenders of his era. DeepSeek chose Paul Scholes, Manchester United's metronome midfielder. Admired by legends such as Zidane and Xavi, Scholes was praised for his vision, technical brilliance, and passing range. He won 11 league titles and 2 Champions Leagues, and famously came out of retirement to help United secure another title at Sir Alex Ferguson's request. Lichat picked Tom Finney, the Preston plumber. Finney was capped 76 times for England, won the Footballer of the Year award twice, and was renowned for his versatility, skill, and loyalty to Preston North End. A symbol of football's golden age. With a vote in both rounds so far, Graham Souness moves to the top of the leaderboard with 3 points. Now we move on to the 18th place spot. Here we saw some heavyweights. ChatGPT and DeepSeek both chose Gary Lineker, England's 4th highest scorer of all time with 48 goals. Lineker won the Golden Boot at the 1986 World Cup, finished second in the Ballon d'Or that year, and was known as one of the deadliest finishers of his era. He starred for Leicester, Everton, Barcelona, and Tottenham and famously never received a yellow or red card in his career. Grok selected John Charles, the Welsh great nicknamed both the Gentle Giant and King John. A versatile player, Charles was world-class as both a centre-half and a striker. He became a Leeds United icon before moving to Juventus, where he was voted the club's greatest ever foreign player. With 3 Serie A titles and 199 goals in 370 games, Charles remains the only Welshman in Italy's Hall of Fame. Gemini chose Ashley Cole, widely regarded as the greatest left-back in Premier League history. Cole combined attacking threat with defensive solidity, playing a vital role in Arsenal's invincible season and later Chelsea's Champions League triumph. Lechat opted for Harry Kane, England's all-time top scorer with 73 goals, and currently the second highest scorer in Premier League history. Kane has won the World Cup Golden Boot, 3 Premier League Golden Boots, and has already achieved legendary status, with more to come before he retires. Now let's check on our ranking. Lineker, with 2 votes, jumps to the top of the rankings with 6 points. We move on to the 17th place. ChatGPT went with John Charles, giving him more points and moving him up the list. Grok chose Paul Gascoigne, or Gazza, arguably the most naturally gifted English footballer of his generation. Despite his off-field struggles, Gascoigne lit up the 1990 World Cup and Euro 96 with his dazzling skill and flair, capturing the imagination of a nation. Gemini selected Kevin Keegan, the first Englishman to win the Ballon d'Or twice, once with Liverpool and once with Hamburg. Known for his energy, dribbling, and determination, Keegan was the ultimate big-game player who maximised every ounce of his ability. DeepSeek went for Frank Lampard, Chelsea's all-time top scorer despite being a midfielder. Lampard is the most prolific goal-scoring midfielder in Premier League history, ranking 7th in the all-time Premier League goals chart. He led Chelsea to 3 league titles and a Champions League. His timing of runs and intelligence made him one of the best. He also finished second in the 2005 Ballon d'Or behind Ronaldinho. Lechat chose David Beckham, arguably the most famous British footballer of all time. While he's often remembered for his global image and good looks, Beckham was far more than just a celebrity. He was one of the finest midfielders of his generation and in England's history. Renowned as the greatest deadball specialist his country has ever produced, Beckham possessed world-class vision, pinpoint passing, and lethal free kicks. As captain, he led England with pride, and at club level he was a driving force in Manchester United's legendary treble-winning season in 1999. That same year, his brilliance earned him second place in the Ballon d'Or. Next is the 16th place. ChatGPT chose Billy Bremner, Leeds United's greatest captain and the heartbeat of their legendary side. The Scottish midfielder was tough, uncompromising, and inspirational, but also skillful and capable of dictating play. He remains a cult figure for both Leeds and Scotland. Grok went for Kevin Keegan, boosting his total. DeepSeek picked Alan Shearer, adding more points to the Premier League's all-time top scorer. Lechat backed Frank Lampard again, cementing his place high on the list. Gemini opted for Jimmy Greaves, arguably England's greatest natural goalscorer. His 357 goals in English top-flight football remain a record to this day. For England, he scored 44 goals in just 57 appearances. A true predator in the box. With this round, Keegan and Lampard climb to the top with 9 points each, while Shearer and John Charles are close behind on 7. Now on to 15th place, where we see a number of familiar names. ChatGPT voted for Jimmy Greaves, Grok AI went with David Beckham, Gemini backed John Charles, and Lechat chose Gary Lineker, each of them picking up an additional 6 points. DeepSeek, however, introduced a new entry, Denis Law, part of Manchester United's legendary Holy Trinity alongside Best and Charlton. The Scotsman won the 1964 Ballon d'Or and remains the only player from Scotland ever to do so. Nicknamed the King, Law was a prolific scorer renowned for his acrobatic finishing and clinical touch, racking up 237 top-flight goals. He is still third on Manchester United's all-time scoring list, and for Scotland, he scored 30 international goals, tied with Kenny Dalglish as the country's top scorer but in nearly half the appearances. Moving on to 14th place, we see some familiar names return. David Beckham was chosen by ChatGPT, while Grok AI once again backed Gary Lineker. However, both Gemini and Lechat voted for a new pick in legendary goalkeeper Gordon Banks, who is widely regarded as the greatest British keeper of all time. Banks' most iconic moment came at the 1970 World Cup, producing the unforgettable save of the century to deny Pelé. For years earlier, he was a cornerstone of England's 1966 World Cup winning squad. DeepSeek introduced Brian Robson, Manchester United's inspirational midfielder. Nicknamed Captain Marvel, Robson epitomised the complete box-to-box player, a tireless leader, fierce tackler, goalscorer, and driving force in midfield. For both Manchester United and England during the 1980s, he was the heartbeat of the team and an irreplaceable figure. With these new votes, the standings shift. Gary Lineker now leads the rankings with 19 points, while David Beckham trails closely behind on 17. Gordon Banks jumps up to third place with 14 points. In 13th place, we see several familiar names once again. ChatGPT voted for Kevin Keegan, Grok AI went with Denis Law, Gemini selected Frank Lampard, and DeepSeek backed Jimmy Greaves. But LeChat introduced a new name, John Terry, Chelsea's legendary captain and centre-back. Widely regarded as one of the greatest defenders in Premier League history, Terry led Chelsea to 5 league titles and a Champions League triumph. He was the backbone of Jose Mourinho's dominant sides and formed an iconic partnership with Ricardo Carvalho, with the duo still holding the record for the fewest goals conceded in a Premier League season with just 15 conceded. For the 12th spot, both Gemini and LeChat voted for Paul Gascoigne, giving him a significant boost in the rankings. ChatGPT went with Brian Robson, while DeepSeek selected legendary goalkeeper Gordon Banks. Grok AI, meanwhile, chose Steven Gerrard, Liverpool's iconic captain and one of the finest midfielders of his generation. Nicknamed Captain Fantastic, Gerrard epitomised leadership and determination, inspiring Liverpool to countless victories. His defining moment came in the 2005 Champions League final, when he spearheaded Liverpool's miraculous comeback from 3 goals down against a legendary AC Milan side. A complete modern midfielder, Gerrard could do everything: defend, drive forward with powerful runs, and unleash thunderous shots from distance. For the 11th spot, both Gemini and LeChat voted for Steven Gerrard, strengthening his grip near the top. ChatGPT backed Frank Lampard, while Grok AI went for Alan Shearer. DeepSeek introduced a new name, Ryan Giggs, the Welsh Manchester United legend. Giggs holds the record for the most Premier League titles won, playing a vital role in all 13 league triumphs under Sir Alex Ferguson. He's the most decorated British player ever, with 34 major trophies to his name, and his longevity is staggering. He scored in 21 consecutive seasons. Beyond that endurance, Giggs was renowned for his dribbling, crossing, and creative play, and he still sits at the top of the Premier League's all-time assist list. With this round of votes, here's how the rankings are shaping up. At 10th we have Brian Robson with 16 points. There's a 3-way tie at 7th between Alan Shearer, David Beckham, and Kevin Keegan with 17 points each. At 5th we have 2 of England's most prolific strikers, Jimmy Greaves and Gary Lineker with 19. Paul Gascoigne sits at 4th with 22, Gordon Banks is 3rd with 23, Frank Lampard sits at 2nd with 27, and Steven Gerrard remains at the very top with 29. Now we move into the top 10. At number 10, ChatGPT picked Paul Scholes. Scholes' placement highlights a fascinating contrast. DeepSeek ranked him as low as 19th, but ChatGPT rated him inside the top 10. Despite his brilliance and the respect he earned from legends across the world, Scholes only made it into the top 20 for 2 of the 5 AI. Grok went with Jimmy Greaves, Gemini voted for Alan Shearer, and LeChat chose Ryan Giggs. DeepSeek, however, brought in a new entry, Wayne Rooney, the England and Manchester United legend. Rooney is United's all-time leading scorer and sits second on England's all-time list. A powerful and versatile forward, he combined strength, technical skill, and relentless aggression to devastating effect. His records speak for themselves, 3rd on the Premier League's all-time scorers list and 5th in assists. Few players in history matched his ability to both create and finish goals. At 9th place, we don't see any new names introduced. ChatGPT and DeepSeek both went for Steven Gerrard, Grok voted for Ryan Giggs, Gemini chose Wayne Rooney, and LeChat selected Alan Shearer. With these results, the overall rankings take clearer shape. Steven Gerrard still leads the way at the top with 53 points, holding a comfortable 13-point gap over Alan Shearer, who sits in second with 40 points. The big question now is, can Gerrard hold on to that number 1 spot as we climb further up the list? At number 8, the votes were once again split. Gemini and LeChat both sided with Denis Law, while DeepSeek went with Paul Gascoigne and Grok chose Wayne Rooney. ChatGPT, however, introduced a new name to the list, Gareth Bale. The Welsh superstar rose to prominence at Tottenham, where he twice won the PFA Player of the Year award, before sealing a record-breaking move to Real Madrid. In Spain, he became a true legend, winning 5 Champions League titles and scoring 3 times in finals, including his unforgettable bicycle kick against Liverpool in 2018, one of the greatest goals ever scored on that stage. Bale isn't just celebrated at club level, he's widely regarded as Wales' greatest ever player. Unlike legends such as Ryan Giggs and Ian Rush, Bale carried his nation to the world stage, leading them to their first major tournament since 1958. At Euro 2016, he spearheaded Wales' incredible run to the semi-finals, and later guided them to both Euro 2020 and the 2022 World Cup. With these achievements, it's clear why Gareth Bale is considered the best Welsh player of all time, and one of Britain's true greats. At 7th place, the AI once again split their votes. DeepSeek and LeChat both went for Kevin Keegan, the 2-time Ballon d'Or winner and one of England's finest ever attackers. Meanwhile, the 2 Welsh wingers made their way back into the discussion. Grok selected Gareth Bale, the 5-time Champions League winner, while Gemini went for Ryan Giggs, Manchester United's most decorated player. As for ChatGPT, the choice was Wayne Rooney, Manchester United's record scorer. At 6th place, the votes brought back some familiar names and introduced a few legendary first-timers. Gemini went with Gareth Bale, while LeChat chose Wayne Rooney. John Charles also reappeared after being absent from the picks for a while. Meanwhile, both ChatGPT and Grok brought in fresh selections. ChatGPT chose Bobby Moore, the iconic England captain and defender, widely regarded as the greatest British defender of all time. Moore remains England's only World Cup winning captain, remembered for his elegance in defence and unmatched leadership. Even Pelé himself said Moore was the best defender he ever faced, the highest praise possible. At club level, he led West Ham to the FA Cup in 1964 and the European Cup Winners' Cup in 1965. Grok, on the other hand, picked Stanley Matthews, famously nicknamed the Wizard of Dribble. Matthews was the first Ballon d'Or winner in 1956 and remarkably played top-flight football until the age of 50, proving his greatness across generations. A revolutionary winger, he was praised by Pelé as one of the all-time greats. Now, let's check the updated rankings. This round brings a big change at the top. Wayne Rooney moves into first place with 65 points, knocking Steven Gerrard down to second with 53. Ryan Giggs now sits at third with 47 points, followed by Kevin Keegan in fourth with 45, and Gareth Bale in fifth with 42. We now enter the top 5, and fittingly, all 5 AI went in different directions with their picks. ChatGPT chose Ryan Giggs, Grok went for Gordon Banks, Gemini selected Bobby Moore, DeepSeek backed Stanley Matthews, and LeChat picked Gareth Bale. On to 4th place, and this is where things get even more interesting. ChatGPT and Gemini both went with Stanley Matthews, while Grok, DeepSeek, and LeChat all cast their votes for the legendary Kenny Dalglish. Dalglish is widely regarded as not only the greatest Scottish player of all time but also Liverpool's finest. He spearheaded the club's golden era, winning 3 European Cups and 6 league titles, while also shining as both player and later player-manager. A sublime technician, visionary passer, and prolific scorer, Dalglish consistently delivered in the biggest moments. He also remains tied with Denis Law as Scotland's all-time top scorer. As for the points, Stanley Matthews moves up to join Wayne Rooney at the top with 65 points, while Ryan Giggs sits just behind on 63. Kenny Dalglish makes his first appearance in the rankings, immediately slotting in at 6th place. Meanwhile, Bobby Moore remains further down with 31 points, but that won't be the case for long. Now on to our top 3. For the third pick, ChatGPT and Gemini once again agreed, this time selecting Kenny Dalglish. Grock and Deepseek both went for Bobby Moore, England's only World Cup winning captain. Meanwhile, Lechat chose to go in a different direction, naming Sir Bobby Charlton as their pick. Charlton's story is one of triumph over tragedy. A survivor of the 1958 Munich air disaster, he went on to captain Manchester United to their first European Cup in 1968, as part of the club's iconic Holy Trinity. For England, he reached the pinnacle in 1966, winning the World Cup, being named the tournament's best player, and securing the Ballon d'Or all in the same year. Renowned for his complete midfield mastery, combining scoring, creativity, and leadership, Charlton is still remembered as perhaps England's greatest ever. With 49 goals in 106 appearances, he remains England's third highest scorer, and he's also second on Manchester United's all-time scoring charts. A true legend for both club and country. There was almost complete consensus over who deserves the title of the second greatest British player of all time. ChatGPT, Grock, Deepseek, and Lechat all chose the final member of Manchester United's legendary Holy Trinity, George Best. As the old saying goes, Maradona good, Pelé better, George Best. A Ballon d'Or winner in 1968, the same year he inspired United to their first ever European Cup, Best wasn't just a footballer, he was a cultural phenomenon, often dubbed the fifth Beatle for his impact beyond the pitch. Though his career was marred by personal struggles, his dazzling dribbling, flair, and audacious genius made him, in the eyes of many, the most naturally gifted British footballer of all time. Gemini, however, broke from the pack, placing Sir Bobby Charlton in second, honouring his consistency, leadership, and enduring legacy for both England and Manchester United. And finally, we arrive at the number 1 spot. Gemini went against the grain once more, naming George Best as the greatest British player of all time. However, the other AI, ChatGPT, Grock, Deepseek, and Lechat, were unanimous in selecting Sir Bobby Charlton to take the crown as number 1. Now that we've gone through every selection, let's take a look at the final rankings of the top 20 British players according to AI. At 20th we have Brian Robson with 16 points. Ahead of him at 19th is another Manchester United legend, David Beckham with 17 points. 18th, World Cup Golden Boot winner Gary Lineker with 19 points. At 17th is Chelsea's all-time top scorer Frank Lampard with 27 points. 16th, the gentle giant John Charles with 28 points. 15th, Jimmy Greaves, one of the most prolific goalscorers in British history with 30 points. At 14th is Paul Gascoigne with 35 points. 13th is the greatest British goalkeeper, Gordon Banks with 39 points. At 11th, we have a tie between two legendary strikers, Alan Shearer and Denis Law with 40 points each. At 10th, we have the two-time Ballon d'Or winner, Kevin Keegan with 45 points. At 9th, Liverpool's captain fantastic, Steven Gerrard with 53 points. At 8th, the modern Welsh icon and 5-time Champions League winner Gareth Bale takes the spot with 58 points. At 7th, Manchester United's most decorated player, Ryan Giggs with 62 points. Tied at 5th is Wayne Rooney and Stanley Matthews with 65 points each. From here there's a huge gap of 22 points between 5th and the top 4. At 3rd is a tie between Kenny Dalglish and Bobby Moore with 87 points each. At 2nd is the mercurial genius and 1968 Ballon d'Or winner George Best with 96 points. At 1st is none other than Sir Bobby Charlton, England's 1966 World Cup hero, Manchester United icon, and the greatest British footballer of all time according to AI. Thank you for watching and don't forget to subscribe for more content.